Good afternoon, Los Angeles, and a big shout out to all educators, parents, grandparents, guardians, and students watching today. We are so happy to have you in our virtual space. If you are one of the 4,500 parents who joined the Teletown Hall sponsored by Reclaim Our Schools LA last weekend, I want to personally thank you for showing up and, most importantly, for expressing your concerns about our return to in-person instruction. Your questions and comments will continue to guide our advocacy and fight forward for safe, welcoming, and thriving classrooms in our new normal. I want to drill down a little deeper on our safe return to the classroom in today's address. As we speak, educators in Los Angeles are currently voting on the agreement we struck with LAUSD on a safe return to in-person learning and hybrid schedules. Joining me today will be a couple of teachers who will be talking about hybrid learning challenges. These educators will also share their thoughts on the joy of seeing some of their students in person for the first time this school year. 1 year ago, UTLA was the leading voice calling for a physical shutdown of our school campuses as COVID-19 spread throughout our city. This push to close wasn't easy, but at the time, we knew it was the best choice for our students, their families, and the entire Los Angeles community. If we were to flatten the curve and eradicate COVID-19, it would require drastic action, and closing our physical school buildings was a critical step in the fight to stop this horrific global pandemic. Since that day, UTLA has been laser focused on educating our students through virtual means, supporting our community, and fighting for an equitable and science-based return to the classroom when it was safe. Today, a year later, we are proud to say that we have achieved our goal. Not only have we fought for an agreement with the school district that ensures the highest level of health and safety, but we did it while still maintaining a rigorous virtual learning environment and centering the needs of our most vulnerable students and their families. To better understand our fight for a safe return to in-person learning, it is worth taking a look back at the harms laid bare by COVID-19 in Los Angeles. The LA area ranks in the top 5 cities in the nation in COVID deaths per capita, with about 200 deaths per 100,000 people, more than twice that in San Diego and 3 times that in San Francisco, and well above the national average of about 150. That means for every 100,000 Los Angeles resident, 200 grandmothers, grandfathers, moms, dads, brothers, sisters, aunts, uncles, friends, and neighbors are no longer with us. More than 3/4 of the communities served by schools, which are a part of LAUSD, exceed the local average, with some having much higher death tolls than the rest of the nation. Sadly, far too many of these communities were Black, brown, poor, and lacked access to high-quality healthcare options. For some, these statistics don't have faces, names, or stories, but for us, they do. And we count our UTLA members among those lost. Alec Dixon, a brother, friend, comic lover, and preschool teacher at Normandy Early Education Center. Nick Glover, a husband, father, first and fourth grade teacher for 17 years at Carpenter Elementary School. Erica Brown Atkinson, a loving wife, mother, friend, and fifth grade teacher at Barrett Elementary School. Diana Rodriguez, a former LAUSD student, a mother, a big dreamer, and an elementary teacher for 30 years at Belvedere Elementary. Sadly, these names, faces, and stories are just a small fraction of the over 23,000 Los Angeles residents who have been cruelly taken from us because of this heinous pandemic. It is for them that we stand, organize, and continue to fight back against this virus. And our agreement is one of the most valuable weapons to ensure that not one more soul is lost due to COVID-19. In the agreement, the district accepted all three safety criteria voted on by an overwhelming majority of UTLA educators as the necessary conditions for a safe return to in-person teaching and learning. Those three are full vaccination for school staff, returning only when Los Angeles County falls below the purple tier, and enforceable safety conditions and protocols at every school, including PPE, stringent social distancing, improved ventilation, and a new daily school building cleaning regimen. The agreement provides for a hybrid model that combines in-person and online instruction with students in small cohorts while at school to help prevent the spread of the virus. Hybrid teaching is going to be very challenging, and it is imperfect. And many of us have compelling reasons to want to teach remotely through the end of the school year. And the fact is that LAUSD is going to open schools, and it is going to require educators to work in school buildings. That can happen with this agreement on concrete safety conditions that we will enforce, or it can happen without the agreement. Voting began yesterday on the tentative agreement. Many of you jumped right in and have already cast your ballots. Everyone else, you have until Sunday, this Sunday at 5 p.m. to vote. In the lead up to this vote, robust conversations are happening in every corner of our union, on social media, in chapter meetings, and school site visits. That is what we do. We engage, we debate, we look at issues from all angles collectively as members of UTLA. Childcare is a huge issue for our educators with young children or whose children attend schools in other districts. And for those members, we are pressing LAUSD to provide accommodations for childcare needs, including permitting educators to provide distance learning from home. We believe the district needs to survey employees to see how many need such accommodations, but the issue is not yet resolved. These are not simple issues that we are grappling with. We have suffered through the collective trauma of this pandemic. There are no easy answers on how to conduct hybrid learning. The schedules in the agreement are not perfect, but they are the best options for keeping staff, students, and their families safe. Our board of directors, House of Representatives, and chapter leaders are going through these debates at every step and have overwhelmingly endorsed this agreement. In the chapter leader vote, more than 80% endorsed the agreement. And this week, the House of Representatives voted 87% yes to recommend a yes vote to members. The ballot question reads as follows. As LAUSD plans a physical return to schools, do you vote to approve the UTLA tentative agreement on safety conditions and hybrid instruction? A yes vote approves the agreement that will allow us to hold the district accountable for the enforceable safety protocols and other provisions enumerated in the agreement, thus ensuring a return to school sites under the optimal safety conditions for educators, students, and the community. A no vote means we don't have an agreement with the district and would allow them to unilaterally reopen schools without enforceable safety conditions in place and under conditions we have no control over. If UTLA members do not ratify the tentative agreement, we would make a demand to renegotiate the agreement. While the district would eventually have to return to the table, LAUSD would be permitted by state law to physically reopen schools or whether a new agreement is reached as long as they follow county and state health guidelines. LAUSD would not be required to follow the provisions of the tentative agreement because it has no effect unless it is ratified by both sides. Now we have two amazing UTLA educators to share their thoughts on the hybrid schedules and the possibility that they might see some of their students in person next month. First up is Sharonne Hapuarachy, a teacher at Dorsey High School in the Crenshaw district, which recently fought off a charter school co-location. Their victory is especially exciting because Dorsey is in the process of applying for and becoming a community school. These educators, parents, and students are defending Dorsey's campus while also imagining and organizing towards something even better. Sharonne?
Thank you so much for that introduction, Cecily. Good morning, everyone. My name is Sharonne Hapuarachy, and I am an English teacher. I've worked at Dorsey High School for the past 23 years. And I am really excited about the work that has been going on by Dorsey parents and students and staff in moving forward in this process to become a community school, and in our recent victory in fighting back yet another potential charter co-location. So great job, Dorsey family. I first wanted to start off by just saying thank you to Cecily, to the officers, and to the UTLA bargaining team, who has really just held the line in helping to keep our students, their families, and our UTLA members safe. When I hear the stories of schools in other parts of the country where teachers have had to go back without a vaccination or while counties were still in really dangerous levels of infection, I do truly feel grateful that we have a union that was not going to back down in the face of political pressures to reopen schools too quickly or unsafely. And the fact that we are not going back until everyone who wants the vaccine can get it. The fact that we waited until we were in the red tier, and our demands that campuses meet all of those safety requirements that are recommended by science. Um, these things mean that lives will have been saved, our students' lives, their family members' lives, and our lives. And I do understand that there are people who are frustrated with parts of this agreement, who are maybe frustrated by the way the schedule will look when we return. And I get that, I totally get that is not perfect by any means. But I think when you factor in all of the pieces, like what is good for parents, what's good for students, and what is going to keep all of us safe, when you look at all those pieces together, this really is one of the best agreements of this kind in our country right now. Even though we're still going to be teaching online to some extent, having some daily face-to-face interactions with students is going to make a difference in their overall mental health, in their motivation, and in our ability to connect with our students. I, as an English teacher, I've been reading the writing of many students, and they write about experiencing depression and isolation and anxiety, about having lost family members, and just missing having school as an escape from sometimes unpleasant living situations. I mean, teaching online, it's not as fun staring at boxes, especially when we'll be doing it from campus. And we know it's not as effective as face-to-face instruction, but for now, we're just looking at a couple of months of the school year, and we have to maintain that focus on the priority of keeping people safe. These decisions that we're going to make now are literally life and death decisions. And that's even more true for students who are living in poverty, students who are living in multi-generational households, and students whose parents or family members are essential workers. This agreement holds the district accountable for things like ventilation systems, social distancing, the daily disinfecting of our classrooms, um, us not having to use our sick days if we did contract the virus. These are necessary to protect not just ourselves and our families, but the students that we're working with. Many of these are protections that teachers in other parts of the country had to return without. And I know people are stressed about returning. I'm stressed about returning. Some are worried about having to take the vaccine, some because they just want to wait until next year to go back. And there's a range of concerns, and they're all valid. I mean, these are all real concerns. But I have to say that wherever you stand on various pieces of this agreement, the reality is that um, at this point, it's much better to vote yes on a less than perfect agreement than to have no agreement at all. No agreement means having no say about when we go back or what the safety conditions will be like when we do go back. Um, we are reaching the end of a really difficult and strange year, thank goodness. And so far, our union and our district have done an admirable job of keeping the priority on safety. This agreement will allow them to continue to do that as we return, and as we continue to set the bar in the nation for safety and protecting the rights and lives of our students, their families, and our union members. So if you haven't done so already, please log on now and vote yes on the tentative agreement for a safe return. Um, Help our union to have that leverage to keep our school communities safe. So thank you all for all you do every day.
Next up is Wendy Lozano, a fifth grade teacher at Canoga Park Elementary School, a social justice advocate for all of us. Wendy, take it away.
Thank you. Hi, my name is Wendy Lucia Lozano, and I'm the chapter chair at Canoga Park Elementary, where I teach fifth grade. I voted yes on the tentative agreement because to me, it is the best possible deal while crisis teaching during a pandemic. Before I go any further, I'd like to stop and thank the bargaining team for all their hard work to get us the best agreement possible. I have deep gratitude for them because I know they're educators just like us, and they volunteer their time to advocate for us. So a big thank you to all the bargaining team. Isn't it crazy how LA County was the epicenter of the virus for so long? And that's what made me feel so proud when we as UTLA educators took a united position that we would only return if one, LA was out of the purple tier, vaccines were available to educators, and safety protocols were in place. And we got that. We got all three of those under this agreement. I know that this agreement isn't perfect. I know many of you are not happy with the hybrid schedules, especially those that are now left trying to figure out childcare. Many of my closest friends, my colleagues, are struggling with the same issue. But we know that any hybrid model will be imperfect and it impacts childcare for working parents. LAUSD families have been dealing with this since the start of the pandemic, and now many of you are dealing with the same issue. Sadly, a no vote will not change that, because what we need to do is demand the change at a federal level. Isn't it crazy how the federal government only made childcare a priority during World War II when they needed women to work? But as soon as the men came back, they cut the program. The pandemic has really shined a spotlight on the need for all of us to advocate for quality and affordable childcare nationwide for working parents. Please understand that ratification of this agreement protects us. Local and state health guidelines will continue to change, and we've seen how they've been politically driven. However, voting yes on this tentative agreement secures our safety measures, even if the local and state guidelines change. For example, we've all heard how Fauci is now saying 3 feet is okay for reopening schools, but our agreement says 6 feet. And LAUSD will have to be held to that standard if we ratify this agreement. So I want you to know that I understand what many of you have been saying. The agreement is only as good as our enforcement of it. That's true. That's why I'm going to be ready with my colleagues to ensure that the district follows the health and safety protocols, but we all need to be ready. I'm sure so many of you have been dealing with so many mixed emotions about returning to teach on campus. I feel fear, sadness, happiness, and excitement all at the same time. It's really weird, right? Like I'm just experiencing all these range of emotions. I feel fear when I think of the possibility of getting infected and bringing it home to my family. I feel sadness for our colleagues and our students who will have to return with broken hearts from losing loved ones to COVID. I feel happiness that our union was able to secure our 3 health and safety demands, even with this imperfect hybrid model. And I feel a lot of excitement, I won't lie, when I think of seeing my students in person, especially those that I know are struggling and are yearning to come back to school for multiple different reasons, and many are out of their control. So please understand that ratifying this agreement is like the vaccine. It's another layer of protection for educators. Remember, it's only until June, it's 6 weeks. It's giving us basically like a test run so we can prepare and make it even better for August. I strongly encourage all of you to vote yes on our tentative agreement. Let's stay united, but most importantly, let's stay UTLA strong. Thank you, everyone. Vote yes on our tentative agreement. And now back to our courageous Madam President to wrap up today.
Thank you, Wendy and Sharonne, for sharing your perspectives. We as educators speak so powerfully about what our students need now and going forward. And today, as I wrap up, I urge you to vote. Our power is our collective voice. Make your voice heard and cast your ballot. If you didn't receive your ballot via email from Integrity Voting Systems, go to www.ivsballot.com/UTLA. That's www.ivsballot.com/UTLA. With so much at stake for our students and their families, We must continue to be united and begin to re-envision our new normal, holding fast to the ideas for safety, racial equity, and the power that public education has to heal. I am so proud to be in this moment with you as we move toward the safe, welcoming, and equitable classrooms our students deserve. Stay safe, y'all. Stay UTLA strong. Have a fantastic weekend, because together we rise.